On this eerie and haunting evening, a chilling breeze sends shivers through the air, encircling a brave adventurer on his unknown journey. The obsidian night sky twinkles with countless stars, and the waning moon, which had graced the horizon as full just 3 days prior, casts its ethereal glow upon the earth beneath his feet as he traverses the dimly lit streets of Darkshire. With each step, it feels as though an invisible force guides him forward, as if an unseen hand gently urges him onward, leading to a house where warm light spills forth from an illuminated window. Without the need for a knock, the door swings open, revealing an elderly woman with silver hair and eyes that hold centuries of wisdom. Dressed in a gown that dances between shades of purple and grey, she seems to have anticipated his arrival. She introduces herself as Madame Eva and, with a gesture of genuine warmth, invites him inside. The woman, renowned for her mastery of ancient arts and her uncanny ability as a fortune-teller, had been disturbed by a harrowing vision concerning her beloved granddaughter, Alyssa. Seeking guidance from her trusted tarot cards, which whispered secrets through the ages, she was filled with dread when they revealed a sinister truth. Death itself looms over her cherished Alyssa. The cards, however, were not entirely clear about the peril or its origins, but through their cryptic whispers, one name echoed again and again, a name intertwined with fate itself: Stalvan. With a glimmer of hope, Madame Eva turns to the stranger she has welcomed into her home on this fateful night. She mentions that his role in this quest is written in the pattern of the stars, and he, determined to help, agrees to assist and protect Alyssa from the malevolent force that threatens her. With hope in her heart, she advises him to seek out Clark Daltrey, the keeper of town records, in that he might have more information about the mysterious name. And so begins the Legend of Stalvan. As the adventurer finds his way to the town hall, the urgency of the little girl's plight weighs heavily on his mind. Will he act in time to rescue her from a deathly fate, or will he be too late? With this concern firmly lodged in his thoughts, he quickens his pace. Upon entering the building, he approaches Mr. Daltrey, a man with light brown hair, a moustache and beard, ensconced amid a sea of books. The clerk offers a somewhat forced smile upon seeing the traveller, clearly taken aback by the presence of a stranger in the building at such a late hour. Nodding respectfully, the adventurer inquires about any knowledge regarding a person named Stalvan. A puzzled expression crosses Mr. Daltrey's face. The name doesn't seem familiar. He politely excuses himself and delves into the town registry. After a few minutes of diligent searching, he makes a discovery. The name, Mr. Stalvan Mistmantle. The last known address associated with him dates back to the Moonbrook schoolhouse some time ago. Recognizing the outdated nature of these documents, Clark Daltrey suggests that if the traveller wishes to find Mr. Mistmantle, he should consider investigating this last known address. He also eagerly welcomes any new information about Stalvan, should the adventurer choose to delve deeper into the whereabouts of this mysterious man, as it would enable him to update his archives and ensure their accuracy. Maintaining the cleanliness and accuracy of the records is of utmost importance to him. Agreeing to Mr. Daltrey's request, the adventurer's journey leads him to the Moonbrook schoolhouse in southern Westfall. Long abandoned, most likely since the Defiers Brotherhood's takeover of the old town, the aging wooden structure stands defiant with broken windows, some firmly sealed with wooden planks. Upon entering, chaos meets his eyes. Upturned tables, shattered chairs, and amid the debris, haunting piles of bones, as if echoing tales of grim events. The very air feels charged with a strange tension, and the scent of dust and mold prevails. While inspecting the building, an old footlocker catches his eye. With a creaking sound, it unwillingly opens, revealing a dusty, unsent letter written by Mr. Mistmantle himself. The letter, addressed to the Honourable Headmaster Crillian, provides an update on Stalvan's recent activities. He mentions following the headmaster's counsel to seek knowledge beyond Stormwind, leading him to eventually settle in the charming town of Moonbrook. Within a few days, Stalvan found himself tutoring local children and was even commissioned by the town mayor to establish a school. The letter also reflects on his journey, spanning from Silverpine Forest to Stormwind and now to the schoolhouse, expressing surprise at how much of Azeroth he already has experienced. An unsettling sound disrupts his thoughts, a cold gust of wind seemingly out of place within the schoolhouse. Suddenly, a forlorn spirit manifests, unleashing a banshee-like scream and launching an attack. Reacting swiftly, the adventurer sprints from the schoolhouse as quickly as possible, periodically glancing over his shoulder to ensure the spirit isn't gaining ground. After what feels like an eternity, the spectre vanishes. Baffled by the recent events, he leans against a nearby tree, pausing to gather his thoughts and steady his racing heart. The chilling encounter lingers in his mind as he peers at the distant schoolhouse. After pondering for a moment, he decides to leave the unnerving incident behind. He shifts his focus to his journey back to Duskwood and the responsibility of handing over the unsent letter to Clerk Daltrey, hoping it contains the information needed to update the town's records. Upon presenting the document, the clerk expresses his gratitude and assures the traveller that Darkshire's archives will be properly updated. Taking the town registry in hand, he begins searching through the relevant pages. Still unsure of how to locate this Mr. Stalvan, the adventurer heads toward the exit, his head filled with questions. Just as he is about to approach the doorway, Mr. Daltrey calls out. He admits to having overlooked some information during his initial examination of the name. In the registry, right beneath the first address for Stalvan, there is another entry, but it is partially scratched out. It seems that the man in question had plans to visit the Lion's Pride Inn in Goldshire, situated in Elwyn Forest. He suggests to the traveller that he should investigate there if he is still in pursuit of this individual. Upon arriving at the Lion's Pride Inn, the adventurer is welcomed by a bustling ambience filled with cheerful patrons and the familiar clinking of mugs. He makes his way to the bar and leans in slightly, where he encounters a familiar face, innkeeper Farley. The two exchange warm greetings, with Farley's hospitable nature shining through before the traveller broaches the topic of Stalvan. The balding innkeeper pauses in his chore of cleaning ale mugs, visibly lost in thought. After a thoughtful moment, he recalls a night from years past, stormy and foreboding. A messenger had taken shelter at the inn, and as midnight approached, he rushed down the stairs in sheer panic, face pale as a ghost. Without even taking the time to dress properly, the man disappeared into the rain-soaked night. In his haste, he left behind letters in an upstairs chest. Among these, Farley mentions was one from the mysterious man, addressed to the Canal District in Stormwind. He recommends that the traveller might want to inspect the chest upstairs and its contents. With genuine appreciation, the adventurer thanks the innkeeper for the lead and heads to the inn's second floor. To the right of the corridor, he spots a prominent chest placed at the foot of a bed. Inside, he finds the aged yet sturdy document Farley had described. In the letter, Mr. Mistmantle passionately conveys his desire to tutor the recipient's children, having heard of their need for an educator. He shares that circumstances led him to depart from his position at the Moonbrook schoolhouse and provides Headmaster Crillian of the Academy as a reference for his credentials. With optimism, Stalvan notes his plan to schedule a face-to-face meeting once winter rains recede, making the roads passable again. Tucking the missive safely in his pocket, the adventurer pauses to consider his next move. With yet another intriguing letter in his possession, it seems the most logical course of action would be to deliver it to the Canal District in Stormwind City. He wonders if this endeavour might lead him closer to unraveling the mystery surrounding the man in question. Leaving the comforting confines of the inn behind, he steps out into the cooling air. The gentle hum of conversations and laughter from the inn is replaced by the distant murmurs of city life, merchants calling out their wares, children playing, and the rhythmic sounds of hooves on cobblestones. Before him, the majestic silhouette of Stormwind City's walls beckons, a beacon of history and intrigue. As he enters the city, the bustle of the streets envelops him, reminding him of the vastness of his quest and the secrets yet to be unearthed. As he meanders between the park and the Mage Quarter, lost in thought, the adventurer's attention is captured by the presence of the caretaker, Mr. Folsom. With the hope of gaining further insights, he approaches and shares his current findings, presenting the letter. At just a glance, the content of the document seems to strike a chord with the caretaker. He is not at all pleased to see the letter. Explaining his reaction, he recounts a dark chapter from his family's past. His father, the previous caretaker of this estate, bore witness to a gruesome massacre. He was left to deal with the grim aftermath of cleaning up that day. The family that owns the estate is running out of resources, leading them to auction off their remaining possessions. What's left is discarded by the canals, right where Mr. Folsom stands. With a resigned sigh, he suggests that if the traveller is truly keen on unraveling the mystery, he might find more clues amidst the discarded belongings. The adventurer delves into the thrown-away items, eyes sharp for any hints or clues. Carefully, he lifts the lid of a wooden crate, revealing a collection of time-worn heirlooms, a cherished family portrait, hunting trophies, and dusty books. Hidden beneath a ceramic vase, a torn journal page catches his eye. Holding it up to the light, he pores over the words. The journal highlights Mr. Mistmantle's observations about Giles and Teloa, the two children he tutored. Giles is described as unruly, while Teloa impresses with her wit and emerging beauty. As Teloa nears adulthood, Stalvan notes her upcoming arranged marriage. He also mentions joining the family on a trip to their summer retreat close to the Eastvale logging camp in Elwyn by the foothills of the Red Ridge Mountains, expressing his intention to write more during the stay. The adventurer realizes that even though his letter wasn't sent from the Inn of Goldshire, it seemed Stalvan still visited the family regarding the tutoring application. As he's engrossed in the journal's tales, an icy gust of wind catches him off guard, signaling the return of the forlorn spirit. Ready this time, the adventurer swiftly draws his blade. The banshee, in its eerie might, attempts to curse him into a sheep's form, but is unsuccessful. After several fierce blows, the phantom is vanquished. Clutching the journal tightly, he realizes the depth and gravity of the mission he has undertaken. The spectres of the past won't rest easily, and the mystery of Stalvan remains a puzzle still missing many pieces. Casting a glance around, he notes the conspicuous absence of Mr. Folsom, who presumably fled in fear. Taking a moment to regain his composure, he decides his next destination is clear. The journal's mention of the Eastvale logging camp tugs at his curiosity. He heads in that direction, driven by a newfound determination, while behind him, the streets of Stormwind continue their age-old rhythms, oblivious to the supernatural drama that just unfolded. The path leading to Eastvale is familiar to many. It's a route frequented by lumberjacks and craftsmen drawn by the camp's renowned wood. As he follows the well-worn road, the distant sounds of axes and saws become louder, signaling his approach to the Eastvale logging camp. Upon his arrival, a particular home catches his attention. He notices Marshal Haggard standing vigilantly outside the building. Without hesitation, he presents the torn journal page to the Marshal. Even though the Marshal's eyesight isn't as sharp as it once was, recognition flashes in his eyes. He remembers seeing a similar page amidst a bundle of old parchments when he first took up residence in this house. Those parchments rested in a chest on the upper floor, briefly inspected when he first arrived, but largely forgotten as his vision continued to decline. With a gentle nod, he urges the traveller to search the container upstairs. He seems confident that among those forgotten pages there might be a faded journal entry that could shed more light on the individual of interest. Ascending to the second floor, the adventurer locates the chest Marshal Haggard mentioned, finding a faded document within. Though much of the writing has worn away with time, certain words remain legible. The entry details Stalvan's encounter with overwhelming emotions. On a particularly pleasant day, when he assisted Giles with a history lesson, Tiloa was outside attending to her garden. She soon entered, gifting him a scarlet begonia and offering a smile that made his heart flutter in a way he had never felt before. It becomes evident that the teacher harbored feelings for his student, a troubling realization. Suddenly, with a whoosh, another forlorn spirit materializes, launching at the adventurer. A fleeting thought suggests Stalvan's possessions might be cursed. Battling fiercely, he forces the apparition into retreat. Growing accustomed to these unexpected confrontations, he makes his way downstairs to report back to the marshal. The marshal, pleased with the discovery, hints at another potential source of information. From his past experiences, he believes he knows someone who could assist further. In his days leading the Stormwind Guard, Haggard often frequented the Scarlet Raven Tavern in Darkshire. The innkeeper there holds a wealth of knowledge about local legends. He advises the traveller to present the written contents to Smits, believing he might offer some insights. Reflecting on his journey, the adventurer felt a tinge of amusement. The answer seemed so close, with a local innkeeper potentially holding the keys to the puzzle. Yet, the various clues Stalvan left in his wake enriched his understanding, making the journey worthwhile in its own right. The marshal's words echo in the adventurer's mind as he leaves his presence. The sun begins its descent, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. The path ahead leads him through dense woods, where shadows dance and the wind whispers tales of old. The towering trees soon give way to the flickering lanterns of Darkshire. As the quaint outlines of the town emerge, he recognizes the familiar silhouette of the Scarlet Raven Tavern. Upon entering the tavern, the traveller wastes no time and approaches innkeeper Smits, mentioning his referral by Marshal Haggard. Smits's face lights up at the mention of his old friend. Eager to provide assistance, the adventurer presents the journal pages to him. With keen eyes, Smits inspects the faded text and exclaims in astonishment, recognizing the distinct handwriting. He shares that he has followed the tales of Stalvan for years. Recounting an incident from the past, the tavern keeper mentions how he had partnered with Haggard to investigate the murders of nobles that had visited Duskwood. From a drawer, Smits retrieves additional muddy documents. He had held on to them for years, uncertain of their origin, but suspecting a link to a mysterious man in the woods. Now, with the adventurer's findings, the connection seems undeniable. Handing them over, Smits urges the traveller to present these pages to Commander Ebenlock, confident that this newfound evidence is significant. However, before proceeding to meet the commander, the adventurer decides to take a moment. Tethering his horse outside, he carefully examines the pages. Despite the mud obscuring some of the content, two entries stand out. The first page paints a portrait of Stalvan's deep emotional connection with Tiloa. He's convinced of a shared affection, recalling a tender moment when she rested her hand upon his. Her smile, radiant and bright, communicates in silent languages only hearts understand. The intensity of their bond resonates in his very pulse, setting his veins aflame. Conversely, the second page portrays Stalvan's anguish and jealousy. The mysterious individual recounts an event that ignited his rage. While he was engrossed in teaching Giles, Tiloa made an unexpected appearance, not alone, but with a suitor by her side. Their public display of affection already stirred jealousy within him, but it was her casual introduction, labeling him as Uncle Stalvan and highlighting his age, that truly stung. Feeling belittled and overlooked, he simmered with indignation at the perceived betrayal, especially given the mere age difference between them. A stone's throw from the inn stands the formidable figure of Commander Althea Ebenlock, the leader of the Night Watch. Clad in ornate armor, her presence is evidence to her unwavering vigilance over Darkshire. Focused on the town's defense, she's unwilling to entertain any distractions. However, persistence prevails and the adventurer readies to share his discoveries. Grudgingly, she admits her long-standing suspicions about Stalvan, showing the traveller a blood-stained letter she had kept in her possession for years. If these pages and the letter indeed match his handwriting, it would unquestionably prove his guilt. She suggests a final step in this investigative journey, a visit to Clerk Daltrey. With years spent meticulously recording town details, Daltrey has developed a sharp eye for distinguishing writing styles. She hands over a bloodstained document, urging him to compare its contents with the town records. Only he will be able to say for sure whether the writing is really Stalvan's. As the adventurer approaches its grand entrance, he pauses, pulling out the page. He takes a moment to examine the letter handed to him by the commander. Despite the thick, dried blood smeared across the parchment, certain haunting words are visible. Through these fragments, Stalvan's profound torment surfaces, a man scorned and derided by his love. The realization of Tiloa's engagement shatters his spirit. He feels an ever-deepening abyss within, fed by his anguish. As the darkness grows, he ominously hints that the blood that will flow is nothing compared to the rivers of tears he has cried. With a heavy heart, the adventurer steps into the town hall once more. It is here within these walls that the clerk's unmatched expertise in penmanship will unveil the truth. Yet deep down he feels a grim certainty about Stalvan's identity. Daltrey, ever observant, notes the traveller's entrance and inquires about the documents in hand. Handing them over for comparison, the adventurer watches as realization dawns on the clerk. With a solemn nod, he confirms the handwritings match to the registry signatures. Without delay, he hurries back to Althea, conveying the grim confirmation. The commander's stern face reflects the gravity of their discovery. Stalvan Mistmantle, a man of heinous crimes, now lurks in the shadows, posing a direct threat to Darkshire's peace. With resolute determination, she charges the traveller with a daunting task: to journey to Stalvan's manor and bring an end to his reign of terror. And once justice is served, the adventurer is to visit Madame Eva, presenting her with Stalvan's family ring. It was, after all, her foreboding premonition that set this grim tale in motion. Heading north out of Darkshire, then veering east, the traveller finds himself on the approach to the foreboding manor of Stalvan Mistmantle. The air around the estate feels thick with a malevolent energy, as if the land itself remembers the atrocities committed. The once pristine grounds of the residence are now falling apart, with undead minions skulking in the shadows. Their hollow moans pierce the silence, and the stench of decay is nearly overwhelming. Bracing himself, the adventurer battles through the shambling abominations. Each blow against the decaying creatures intensifies the strong odor, and with adrenaline surging through him, he fights his way towards the heart of the estate. As he reaches the manor's entrance, a wave of dread washes over him. Pushing the door open reveals a nightmarish figure, an undead entity still wearing remnants of a once elegant light blue tuxedo. Memories flood back to the tragic tale where Stalvan, driven to madness by unanswered love, murdered Tiloa, her groom-to-be, and perhaps even her entire lineage. After his brutal spree, he sought refuge in this abode, succumbing to the darkness within and around him. The result of that descent into madness stands before the adventurer, an undead creature, clutching his infamous axe, the Reaver, still thirsty for blood. Stalvan, sensing an intruder, abruptly turns its gaze to the side. The traveller instinctively takes a step back, met with the horrifying sight of a jawless face, eyes empty yet burning with rage. Without a moment's hesitation, he lunges at the adventurer. The clash that follows is nothing short of epic. The air seems thick with tension as the two combatants size each other up. The cursed soul, driven by unholy fury, moves with an unnatural agility. The traveller, using every ounce of his skill and experience, counters each ferocious strike with calculated precision. The surrounding woods echo with the sounds of metal clashing, grunts of exertion, and the occasional feral growl from the ghoulish assailant. The fight seems to stretch on for an eternity until, with a final resounding blow, the adventurer brings an end to his reign of terror. Standing amidst the aftermath, panting and drenched in sweat, he carefully retrieves the tarnished family ring from the creature's skeleton finger, taking a moment to wipe away the grime and blood before preparing to present it to Madame Eva. The adventurer slowly turns to survey the manor's surroundings. He notices that the undead minions have vanished and are replaced by some sort of calmness. Lost in thought, reflecting on the twisted tale of Mr. Mistmantle's descent into insanity and the trail of bloodshed he leaves behind, the traveller's gaze is drawn to a lone splash of colour amidst the gloom, a single scarlet begonia standing resilient in the cursed garden, a bittersweet symbol of love, hope, and perhaps the memory of the innocent Tiloa, hinting at the possibility that, against all odds, peace has finally returned to these haunted grounds. As the adventurer makes his way through the streets of Darkshire, the familiar dwelling of the elderly woman emerges. Upon entering, it becomes evident that she's already aware of Stalvan's demise. It seems the mystical arts and her connection to the unseen grant her insights beyond the ordinary. Presenting the ring to her, she delicately takes it. She examines it from a distance, recognizing the weight of its history and the myriad tragedies linked to it. Acknowledging the adventurer's role in ending the menace, her expression conveys gratitude. His actions, both brave and cunning, have rid Duskwood of the darkness the fallen gentleman had cast over it. However, the mood in the room remains somber. While they celebrate the end of his terror, the weight of the lives lost to his lunacy hangs heavily in the air. As Madame Eva places a gentle hand on the adventurer's shoulder, it suggests a shared understanding. Those lost might now find peace. The adventurer, leaving her dwelling with a nod, feels the weight of his journey. Even so, as he walks the streets of Darkshire once more, he notices a subtle change. The town seems brighter, the pall of fear slightly lifted. The image of the lone scarlet begonia, standing resilient amidst the decay, remains with him, a mournful reminder of love, loss, and the hope that endures through the darkest of times.